Hello, I teamed up with my brother in order to make this fake Norse music video. And now I want to show you how I made the background with this kind of metaball style effect. And also I will show you how I made the piano roll animation. Okay, so let's recreate this piano keyboard. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white keys and 5 black keys. So first I need a line point. I will use draw mesh at points and a cube mesh. Let's pin draw mesh at points. We have this. We need 7 white keys. Let's resize the cube mesh on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and on the z-axis. Okay. So now I can duplicate cube mesh and draw mesh at point. Use the same line points in draw mesh in my second draw mesh at point and use group. Let's pin the group. And now we see nothing special. So we need to change the color of the black keyboard keys. I will make them red so I can see well. And move them up. And move them on the z-axis as well. Reduce the size. But now, as you can see, my keys are overlapping. I need to place my black keys in between the white keys. So for this I will use a filter points. We'll connect the line point to it. Reconnect the filter point to draw mesh at point. And now I get only one key of each color. So instead of 7 I will put the double so I can do the math. Multiply by 2. So we get 14. And here for the field steps I will use 2. In the filter point I will set the step to 2. And I need 7 keys. So we have exactly the same thing than before. But if I duplicate the filter point and use the same line points on it and use it for the black keys, now I can change the start index to 1. And now the black keys are shifted compared to the white keys. But I only need 5 black keys, so I will put the count to 1. I have my first black key. And now the best thing I found is to duplicate this filter point 5 times. Connect the line point. Use a combine buffer. Connect all the filter points for the black keys to it. Connect the combine buffer to draw mesh at point. Now all my 5 keys are at the same place, so I will move the second key. 3. And the 4th one. And the 5th one. Okay, now we have our octave ready. So if you want to make this procedural, to increase the size of the keyboard, I will go to line point, hold the control key and click in this area of the parameter, of the count parameter. So I get this here. And I need to increase the size every time I double the number of keys. So let's say I need another int value, set to 1, to multiply by 14. And I will connect this one to the discount, so nothing changed. Oops. So this size I need, this int I need to convert it to float, int to float. I will put it to the length factor of the line points. So now if I set our int value to 2, I get this, but we need to connect this count to the count here. Okay, this 2 value, I need to connect it to the count here. But my black keys are not at the right place. It's because here I have a step count to 2 and I need a step of 14. So let's set 14 for everyone. And voila. So now when I increase this value, our keyboard is growing. So now we have our procedural keyboard ready. We can start to play with it. It's always interesting to rename things, like black, white, and let's make it bigger, like 4 octaves, even bigger, 6, yeah, 6, I like 6. So now if I want to animate it, I need a sample point attribute, which I will put in between filter points and draw mesh point. And I will do the same here, so Ctrl D. Nothing is changing, so I will need a texture, linear gradient that I can use here, and I will duplicate it as well here. Or maybe I can use the same one. Okay, so now when I select the first sample point attribute, I can use the brightness for moving on the y-axis. So we are working on the white keys, so I will go -6. Wow. And this is happening. And this is because of the size of the texture. Because we see in the parameter of the sample point attribute, we have a map size and orientation. So we can increase the scale. So what is interesting is that we have a scale here. You have the length factor of the line point, and it's 6. So let's use it for the scale of the sample point attribute. So length factor, and use it for the scale. And now we see this. If I activate the gizmo here, we can see our texture doing this. So for the gradient, I can right click here and change its interpolation to smooth. So now we get a smooth transition. And I always feel better when I use square texture, but it's not always the case. You don't always need square texture. This is how I like it. And maybe we need to use the same scale for the second sample point attribute. Okay. And for this one, I will also use the brightness for the y-axis, but this time I will put a positive value, like 6. And now we can see this. So now when I move the texture of sample point attribute, when I move the center, you will see this animation. But as you can see, we can't get the white keys back in their place. It's because of the texture wrapping. So here we have a texture mode set to wrap, so we will set to clamp. And now you can see the animation doing like this. So I will do the same for the second one. Texture mode, wrap to clamp. And if I move it, alright. So maybe I can add a camera. Render target. Pin the render target. Deactivate the gizmo. Move the camera around. So now we have our animation for to build the piano keyboard by moving the texture of the sample gradient, sample point attribute. Sorry. What is also interesting is to give some rotation to the keys. Go back to sample point attribute for the white keys. Let's change the position of the texture. And now we can use the red for rotate on X. And let's put 360. And let's do the same for the black keys, rotate on X. Let's put minus 360 to see what's happened. Maybe we can do some math. We can use a value. We can go to a sample point attribute. Here we have those center values. I will hit Control. I get my center here. Keep it here. And I will also add another vector for the black keys. So now when I move this center on the x-axis, we see the black keys and the white keys are reaching their final place at the same time. So maybe I want the white keys to come before the black keys. So that's why I use this add vec3. So let's put -1. So now when I move this x value, we see that the white keys are reaching their final position before the black keys. I can increase this value. Let's -1.8. So now when I animate this value, now that our piano keyboard is ready, I will make a symbol out of it. So I will add a layer 2D here. And then select everything except the layer 2D. Right click, symbol definition, combine into new type. I can choose a different place to, let's put it in example. Piano keyboard. I hit combine. So once the combine is done, I can get rid of the layer 2D. Double click on my piano keyboard, operator, symbol, I don't know. And now we're in. I can pin the output. Let's go to the gear icon, timeline settings, specify setting for piano keyboard, and I will add a soundtrack. So let's add a soundtrack, user, UMK, music. Which was, let's take this one. So I know if I remember well, the BPM is 125. Okay. So we'll place a loop where I have my where the solo piano is happening. It's a bit loud. Okay. So now if I want to move the keys on the music, I will need playback FFT. I will set it to frequency band peak. This playback FFT, you can plug it into value to textures. And I will need another set of sample point attribute. So let's add a new sample points attribute. Place it here. Duplicate it. Place it here as well. We'll plug the value to texture to them. And now when I hit play, we have our texture moving with the sound. And this texture is black and red, so I will use the red channel for moving on the y-axis. Same here for y. and I will use a negative value. Minus 25, yeah, that's nice. Here as well, minus 25. We have the same issue as before about the wrap. So, let's take our length as well. This marks. So the length goes to the scale. Alright, let's play. So now we have a few things to fix. So first, texture mode to, it's fine, to clamp. No. So when I play the music, this part isn't moving. So if you have the same issue, we can not use the full list and reduce this range end. I think it's around 25. And everything should move. But these keys, those two keys, they look a bit weird. So maybe we can use mirror once, or mirror. No. Let's do it on both. Mirror. Okay. So we fixed it with mirror. We could also add a value to the scale, but this looks good to me. But we can see that the high-pitched noise are making move those keys, and the low noise are making move those keys. And usually it's the opposite on a piano keyboard. So let's rotate the texture on the Z-axis and do the same here. This is good. That was quick. So now we can do also the keyframe animation. So let's go before the piano solo. Here, I will move this value, the center value, until I don't see the keys anymore. So here, if I hold Control, not Control, if I hold Alt to animate, so hold Alt and click, I added a keyframe. Then let's go to the beginning of the piano solo and then just change the value here. So let's put 6. It was more, okay. 7, okay. So now when I hit play, so now when the piano was, the key were building the piano keyboard, we see that there are the playback and the value texture have an effect on it, and I don't want it. So I need to keyframe also the red factor. So since I'm using the same value for both, I will hit Control on this system single for red factor. So now I have it here. Plug it to the other sample point attribute. And I want it to start only at this point, so I will select it, hit Alt to get my keyframe, then move before, move the cursor on the timeline a bit before, add another keyframe. I can set it to 0, but here I have a linear interpolation, and I can click on the keyframe and change it to constant. So that now we can see that it will work. Okay, that was not so perfect. So let's move this keyframe here. Yeah, it's pretty cool. What else? What can we do? We can add more stuff. We can do the explosion as well. How can we do that? We can simply go back to our line point and add a randomize points, connect the light points, reconnect, okay, I've replaced all the connections. And at the end of the piano solo, here I will explode them. So for this it's simple. I need to put some value for the position. Let's put 2 everywhere. And here I have the amount. So if I put 0 on amount, everything goes back in place. So for my explosion, I will use the amount. I can also use some rotation. And that's good. So let's animate the amount. So I hold Alt, click, and then let's move the cursor a bit further on the timeline. And let's put a big value, like 20. Also I want this red factor that controls the sound reactive keys. I will stop it, so I can just click it, go back to the moment where I hear where I decided to stop using it, and Here I put 0. And you see we have this linear interpolation, so I will select this one, this keyframe, set it to constant. And this is not what I want. Because if I play, oh no, it's okay. Well, we covered everything for the piano keyboard, musical keyboard, however you want to call it. I let you have fun moving the camera around. You are not forced to move the camera, you can also move the group, because we did all this stuff and we can act on the group, so you can do some translation, rotation, you can do all sorts of stuff and it will work, it will always work. And if the piano is too small or too big, we can always change its size. It will always work. We can make it bigger. Tool is very flexible. Of course, when you change things, you need to adapt the other values. So like this. Maybe this is a bit too long. Et voilà.